Okay, so your girl has been off social media for a little over 10 months, and y'all, it has been a very blessed 10 months. A lot has happened. Like, it's been very emotional. Rewind to a year ago when I started wrestling with the idea, oh, what would it be like to step off social media for a little while? Um, I think what like inspired that whole initial like conversation between me and God was that I just knew something was not right between him and I just felt very like lukewarm in my faith. I didn't feel like I was hearing from him clearly. I felt like there was a lot of distractions. And so I just knew like something radical needed to happen. So I started entertaining the thought, well, what would it be like if I stepped off social media for a while? I know I'm very affected by social media. And then I just kind of went from that. Okay, I'm going to get off Facebook and Instagram. And then it was like, well, I'm going to be radical and I'm going to stop watching movies. And I'm also going to stop watching TV shows because they also are not always wholesome. You can't always control like your intake unless you just like completely cut it out. And I'm just a person that is just very absorbent of like what I watch. And I know that. So I just decided, okay, I'm just going to cut it all out in this season. And hindsight, I was honestly only anticipating being off of everything for like a month, and it just kind of kept growing and growing, and God just kept doing things and showing up. And honestly, I just kind of got addicted to what he was doing. And so ended up being really a beautiful season. One of the things that I noticed right away was that I was just very present. Like, um, I just wasn't distracted like when I'd go out and visit people or even being right here with my own family. Like Adelaide, this is the first year of her life, and there's so many memories that like I just got to enjoy with just her. And they're not things that like, yeah, maybe I don't have a video to remember like that moment. Or I didn't post it and I didn't get to share it, but it just made it honestly just so much more special to me to have that like that first year with just her, like just with her, and also with Jeremy, like so many intimate memories that we'll just always have. And I just know that I was 100% there. I wasn't distracted. I wasn't thinking about what's going on in social media world. So I'm present with my friends. I'm present with my family, and I was so present ministerially. Like I just was like so much quicker to realize if somebody is down or out, and just way more in tune also with the Holy Spirit and what he might be saying or ministering to someone. And that to me was worth all of it. The second thing that I noticed was that I just was way lighter. Like, if you're like me and you're a sponge and you just pick up everything from everyone, social media can be totally overwhelming to you. Like, you'll maybe be browsing someone's account that's maybe like an influencer or someone that you don't even know who they are. They're half across the world, but you just pick up every single thing that they're like going through. And I've always been that way. I've always been a person to pick up things like that. And I've kind of learned how to use it as a gift. I've learned how to pray for people that way and intercede for them. But like social media world is just so massive. There's a massive like scope of reach. And honestly, like all the things that I went through this past year, I don't think that I would have been able to like handle what I was going through as well as like be able to carry everyone's burdens that I would be encountering on social media. The third thing was that I'm such a people pleaser. And honestly, like I just like naturally want people to be happy with what I do. And I know that that can be like a good thing, but at the same time, for me, it becomes a place of like intense bondage because I give up a lot of like what's important to me or who I am, and I become kind of like inauthentic. And so something that I really felt God was doing in me like right away was that I was just realized that I was becoming more authentic Keaton, who God created me to be. Like I was able to be silly or goofy or heavy or whatever I needed to be in a certain moment. And that was just very freeing for me. Okay. I also felt very clean. And I know that might sound weird. When I say unclean, I mean things like I felt like intense shame or depression or I don't know, just like worldly things that I know God already like delivered me from, but I'd be on social media all day and those were the types of things that I was feeling. And so when I stepped away from that, like I just really felt, I don't know, just so clean. Like I didn't have to continue like oh Lord, here's all of these things that I just picked up from the day. Like starting from that point every day, worship started to become much easier for me. Because when you're not dealing with all of those like inward heavy emotions, you're already at like this higher ground. So it's just easier to go higher. Okay, the fifth thing, I started to feel free from all of these things that honestly I didn't even really know were like operating in me. So things like jealousy and comparison and the need to please people, like the need to be seen by people, all of these things that like I said, I didn't even realize that these were things like operating so much inside of me, but like God really burned these things out of me in this season. And so when God does burn something out of you, he does it through repentance. So I'm not going to say that it was like pleasant going through it, but like I knew that I needed to hand these things over. I mean, I really had to, I guess, just kind of bare my soul in front of the Lord in those places just to say, God, like this is something that is inside me. I don't want it there anymore. So I'm just going to give it over to you. And it takes a lot of humility. Um, but yeah, God did deliver me from a lot of things, like I said, that I didn't even know were there. Um, okay, so some of the things that I went through this year that were pretty crazy and intense. Um, so before I got off social media, my dad passed away. And that was something that I didn't really even have a chance to like process or grieve for really almost a whole year because my dad, I don't know if any of you have done end of life care for a parent. Like my dad was living with us and he passed actually at our home and we were taking care of him. And it was crazy traumatic. Like it was a traumatic death. It was really, honestly, it was so awful. And when it happened, I just so much like shut off. Like I just kind of went numb. And I remember like doing a post on social media and like just feeling like instantly, like I knew I was going to get a lot of sympathy from people. And honestly, that's what I wanted. I wanted people to see like, oh, Keaton, you've been through just a very traumatic season. Here's the thing, like after that initial post, like people forget that you lost that person, but you don't forget like that pain is still there. And sometimes it gets even more traumatic and deeper. So in a way, for me, that kind of debilitated my grieving process because everyone was moving on. And I just kind of felt like, okay, Keaton, you need to move on now. The rest of the world is moving on. And so I kind of just like stuffed the whole situation down without like really acknowledging it or processing it fully. And I moved on and we had our beautiful baby girl. And honestly, that was such a joyful season that brought us so much needed joy. Now we're in this like awesome, joyful season. And I'm so excited to be a new mom and to be with this beautiful baby girl that I prayed for and wanted so dearly. And again, still just not processing what I just been through with my dad. And then that's like one of the first things, like being off social media, is that okay, now I'm like alone in this house that we lost my dad in. Like I have so many memories. And I just like was really confronted with it. Like there's a lot of like downtime for me to think about those things. And honestly, super painful to go down the path of healing, but yet like so super necessary. In a lot of ways, I'm still like grieving. I'm still processing that. So this time off social media has been filled with so much joy with the birth of our baby girl in her first year. She brought so much light to our house. But yet also so much tremendous loss. I actually almost died a couple of times. I was in the ER for several stays. And one of the more traumatic situations was I had a very severe miscarriage and almost bled to death. And that was just like so super emotional. Like again, it like all happened so fast. We had been praying for a baby and we'd been trying since Adelaide was about 4 months old. So we were so super excited to find out that we were pregnant and then also that like the pregnancy wasn't viable. I ended up hemorrhaging and almost bleeding to death. I was rushed in for an emergency procedure and honestly, again, like I couldn't even hardly process it all. It all happened so fast, so much joy right away, and then such loss. Several months after that, I lost my grandma, and like it's just so many like little things that if I even mentioned them, they wouldn't seem like that big of a deal, but like they were a big deal. And mean, I ended up losing a ton of weight in this season, not intentionally, just through like all of the things that I've been going through. I think looking back, like I just really needed that private, intimate time of healing with my family for all of that, because it's so easy to like stuff that pain with getting on social media and just scrolling mindlessly. And then you fall back into like the comparison, like, why am I going through such a hard season when I'm trying with all that I have to pursue God and to live an honorable life for Him? And you just can fall into all of that so easily, and it just makes you feel like pathetic. So, like looking back, I'm very grateful that I didn't have social media in that time. I think that I just needed just my family, and we all just needed to heal together. That is definitely worth mentioning is that we had all of this like extra time on our hands. Because like I said, we weren't watching movies, we weren't watching TV. We literally like, okay, the first couple of weeks, I swear we just like sat on the couch and like did not know what to do. It's honestly probably so funny. But we learned what to do with our free time. We started going on prayer walks around the city. We started to really press into God together. We'd have worship nights, even sometimes just me and Jeremy. We took Adelaide to the splash pad. We hung out with friends. I feel like we became such a tight-knit family, like that did things together. That was like the best part of all of it, is that we just all were very present with one another, and we found things to do. And oh, also, in all of my free time, like especially during the day while Jeremy was at work, I just learned that I had all of these new interests, and all of these like hobbies kind of just were birthed out of this season of not really knowing like what to do with myself. So I really took up sewing. I really started writing. I'm actually been working on like a daily devotional, a year-long devotional, and that has been really fun to do. I started a YouTube podcast. I'm getting ready to launch a web page, kind of like a blog, to inspire people to walk a deeper life with Christ. And I'm very excited about that. I think like the biggest thing about me having so much free time is I was just really able to like focus, like hone in on like, what are my giftings? What are my talents? What do I really know that I'm called to in ministry? And how can I like start taking those steps to really like allow God to use me in those ways? And so without all of those distractions, God really was just free to use me in any way that He wanted to. And I was really able to cooperate, because like I was just like out of sheer boredom, like I just, okay, God, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And so honestly, like it's been really cool. I know, like, I feel like I've really stretched myself in ways like I never thought like in a million years that I would be on YouTube talking, because I've always had like an intense fear to talk in front of the camera. And again, like God just really pushed me in that way. And here we are. Okay. So this is what we've all been waiting for. The whole reason I went on this social media fast to begin with was because I wanted to launch my relationship with the Lord. I wanted to take it to some new heights. And you know something? It took 6 months for me to get to the point where I was hearing the Lord clearly. Like I was actually pretty astounded by that, because I thought it would happen pretty much like overnight, or even maybe take less than a month, because initially I was only going to get off for a month. And that's how long it took for me to get away from all of these like distractions and voices and just like things that I guess that He needed to deliver me from. Okay, so I started to read like these books. I found this website called Thrift Books, and you can get books for like $2. And I found all of these awesome spiritual books, and I just ordered a bunch of them. I had a lot of time on my hands and I needed something to do. So a girl ordered a bunch of books, and I feel like they just like, I mean, I just was growing so much, and it really like stirred this like hunger inside of me that like I just really wanted to pursue God, and just like really get like radical and serious about it. So I guess like as I was reading these books, God just like really worked humble prayers inside of me. Like I just would be reading a sentence and I'd be like, pride, da da da. I don't want pride. Okay, Lord, I do not want to be prideful. I don't want to be arrogant. I don't want to be like, I just had like all of these really simple prayers, but it became like my whole entire day. Every single day was these really short, like one sentence, but very like pungent prayers. And that just like that of all things, of all the things was what really launched me in my relationship with the Lord, is that I just like really adapted this super like repentant heart and just very open to the Lord coming in and just honestly flushing things out of me and filling me with new wine. When I did that, God like showed up radically. Like I started to hear his voice audibly. Like almost overnight, I started to hear his voice. Like I'd wake up in the middle of the night and he would tell me something that was so spot on. Like he made it very like abundantly clear that he was with me in the minute details of my life, things that you don't even think God really cares about. But let me tell you something, he does. He cares. He cares about the little things. And there was one night where Jeremy woke up and he was super like nervous and he was like rubbing his chest. And I go, babe, what's up? He goes, I think I need to go to the hospital. I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, well, I just can't breathe. Like I haven't been able to breathe this past hour. And I remembered like right before I woke up, I was having this dream that we called this doctor to come to our house. And they gave Jeremy a full like checkup. And the doctor kind of like laughed and was like, you just need to take an allergy pill. You're just having severe allergies. And so I remembered the dream and I'm like, yo, babe, I just think that you need to take an allergy pill. And he took it and like instantly he felt better. And so, I mean, that was just one example, but he showed up like 1,000 different ways like that. And I just like, honestly, every detail, he was so present. So fast forward about 9 months into this fast. And honestly, I feel so good. I feel so free from so many things. I feel like my relationship with the Lord is like this. My relationship with my friends is awesome. Like ministerially, I feel so present. I feel so there. I feel like I'm hearing from the Lord for people and I'm sharing it. And people are getting free. And honestly, I just feel like I'm like living the dream. I really grew accustomed to being off social media. And then the Lord was like, guess what? You're getting back on social media. And I'm like, no, no, no. I dug my heels in because I just was so comfortable with being off. And so I'm like, okay, Lord, if that's really you, which I knew it was, I'm like, if it's really you, you need to confirm it. I have to know for sure. And so that night we went out to eat with my pastor, and he gave us this really encouraging word about how he feels like we're called to the 7 mountains of influence, one of those being media and like social media. I'm like, okay, God, I see you. I see you. So that reminded us though that Jeremy had also, he actually had that word. Somebody gave him that word at like he was doing a worship conference, and a little cute old lady came up and said, I just see you on all 7 mountains of influence. And so that was like definitely a confirmation for us. And then also like I just really did feel like it was time. Here's what's hilarious about the Lord. When he calls you to something, like I've always known that I was called to social media. So he asked me to like lay it down for almost a year. And it's just so like the Lord to do that, because when he calls you to something, he first crucifies like any flesh that you've got surrounding it. And when you're completely dead to yourself in that area, then he can step through you and then he can truly use you. So that's really interesting. And so now I've been on social media again for like about a week. I maybe should have waited a little bit of time to see like how I'd really respond being back on, because I'm very freshly back on. I'm not really sure what like my point of being back on social media is. Honestly, I haven't really felt like that inspired to even get on and post very much. I know that God's been leading me to pray for a lot of people. Um, but I do know that like I guess my overall outlook of social media has changed drastically since I've been off. Like I definitely have a more compassionate approach. I really okay, so to replace all of the feelings of comparison and jealousy and all of the like nasty things, now I just like genuinely like feel like I can be free to celebrate with other people and encourage them purely. And I don't know, just feel like I'm much more free to be used of the Lord on social media. So that's really like you made it to this point in the video. odds are that you are called to step away from social media for a little minute, baby girl. And if you feel that tug in your heart, just do it. Don't hesitate. Honestly, you're going to be so blessed. The things that God is going to do inside of you and around you is just going to shock you. It's going to blow you away. Okay. So yeah, I can't wait to see what he does. Thank you for watching my video. I love you guys, and I hope that you stay blessed.